Red button. Aiden, turn the pads down some. Allow all the little ones to work their way out. All right, so we're going to continue our Summer on the Mount series. And just a heads up, we are covering a ton of ground today. And when I say a ton, I mean a ton. We're going to dive. I broke this down into parts, so if we don't get through all of it today, we're going to be able to jump into it next week. But it's dealing with some heavy, Jesus starts dealing with some heavy stuff, and where we're going today. And so I'm looking forward to it, but just a fair warning, we are trucking over some ground today. And so this whole series, over the whole time, we're learning exactly what Jesus said. Jesus is not just about satisfying with a surface level of religion. He is after the hearts of man, after the hearts of women. And this is not a series about just how to look successful, how to look happy, because some of us have mastered that. Some of us have mastered the art of being able to smile for a picture. Some of us have perfected the church smile. You can be asked, you come into church and someone says, "Hey, how are you doing?" And you're like, "I'm blessed." It's not wrong, but I'm blessed, and yet my kids are acting a fool on the way to church. My transmission's gone out. My car's breaking down. My alternator died. I lost my job, but we're blessed. And I don't want you to misunderstand me as I'm saying this, because yes, you are blessed, but the fact of the matter is there's a difference between looking okay and being okay. And Jesus is okay. You are still blessed if you are not okay. And so you don't have to fake being okay to be blessed. You don't have to walk into a church or walk and go to hang out with somebody and say, "Oh, well, I'm blessed as my life is just falling apart around me." You are still blessed. If you have given your life to Jesus, you are still blessed even if you are not okay. Just so everyone knows, everybody's asked this morning, no, I did not buy a new vehicle. We were, but before I tell you this was an answer to prayer. We still have the old one. This was an answer to prayer, because if you remember what we were praying for over the last several weeks as it pertained to the kids' camp, it was safe travel. Well, my alternator went out the moment the car hit the driveway. The very moment that my car made it back from 6 trips down to Oklahoma City and back, it pulls into the driveway. We go out there, and my wife's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the battery light's on." And so I turn it on, and I'm looking at it, and sure enough, as it's just sitting there, everything just dies. But I was not okay in the moment. It does not mean I was not blessed. I was blessed and fortunate enough to be able to have it towed over to a mechanic, talk with them. The prices, they gave me one price, and I was like, "Yeah, I mean, that's not possible." And they were like, "Oh, well, let me go back and crunch numbers." And, as automotive shops do, they go back and they crunch numbers, and amazingly, the number drastically drops. Yeah. And so it put it back into a price range that we could have afforded the other price range, but it would have been tight. But I was still blessed even though I was not okay. And Jesus understands that. Jesus died knowing you were not okay. And yet he gave the blessing of salvation to us even though we were not okay. And so we're gonna continue our series, but we're gonna do a quick recap. Week 1, we went through the Beatitudes and how the world celebrates pride, power, revenge, and Jesus blesses humility, meekness, mercy. Everything as it pertains to the kingdom of heaven is upside down compared to what we look at in our society. It is different. Week 2, we talked about salt and light. We are a city set up on a hill. Kingdom people don't hide. We preserve, we influence, we illuminate. We don't blend into the darkness of this world, but we shine a light inside of it. And then last week started where we're going this week. Last week we talked about anger. And how the righteous people, when Jesus brings this up, Jesus uses, it said that you shall not murder. And the religious people are saying, well, guess what? We hit that mark. We haven't murdered anyone. But Jesus takes it further. Jesus starts peeling back some layers. And Jesus says, okay, you're right. You've never physically murdered anyone, but let's take a look at the steps that lead to it. Let's talk about the hatred and the bitterness and the unforgiveness and the contempt where murder actually starts. Because before murder happens with a weapon, it happens in the heart. And so today we're going to continue the same path as Jesus begins to really just start peeling back layer after layer of the inside of our heart and the hidden battles that we all deal with. And so Jesus doesn't change subjects, he goes further into it. And so he starts dealing with the things that aren't seen, the battles that we're having, the collapse and all of that. And so Jesus starts dealing with the stuff when nobody's watching. The unseen places, the private thoughts, the struggle you talk to anybody and they're like, man, if you understood what happens inside of my head. The quiet compromises. You know what, it's just, I'm going to give a little here. And when I give a little here, it starts to erode there, and by the time it's all said and done, I have the Grand Canyon running through my life. He talks about the wounds that aren't surrendered. The temptations we keep entertaining, the resentment we keep reliving and rehearsing. Jesus starts dealing with all of that. All of these hidden battles, because what we have to understand is that before anything else starts, it all starts in the heart. Nobody wakes up and no married person wakes up and says, today is a good day to ruin my marriage. It doesn't, you don't wake up doing that. You don't wake up saying, I'm just going to have zero integrity today. You don't wake up saying, I want to be the most bitter individual on the face of the planet. Everything starts in the unseen places. And so today we're going to talk about some hidden battles. Because hidden battles are heart battles. And so Jesus walks us through this, going room by room by room. So today, and parents, for those parents who have kids in here, it's going to stay PG. But we're going to talk about lust, and we're going to talk about faithfulness, we're going to talk about integrity, revenge, love, all of it in one message. Because what Jesus is trying to do is make people understand that he is going after your heart. He does not attempt to shame us into something, but we feel shame because we know better. And so before we jump in, everybody's familiar with the Titanic, and the Titanic in 1912 hits an iceberg, but the problem with the iceberg was not what they saw. It was what lied underneath. It's the same thing spiritually. It's not the things that we physically see with our eyes. There are things underneath the water that we don't personally see that Jesus tries to deal with in your life. And so, today, we're gonna run through this. So we're gonna start, we're gonna pray, and then we're taking this section by section. So Father, today I thank you. I thank you that you still are chasing after your people. That until all the lost come home, you won't stop moving for us. Lord, I thank you that you don't cause me to feel shame. Father, we give you all the praise and all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so we're going to start in Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 27. So, Jesus begins with a subject that is uncomfortable. And this is uncomfortable, still to this day, is a topic inside the church that just makes people uncomfortable. There are two topics that just nobody in the church world wants to talk about. And it is the giving aspect, so nobody wants to talk about money and nobody wants to talk about sexual behaviors. Those are like, all of a sudden have become the two biggest faux pas within inside the church. But Jesus starts with something that made people uncomfortable, not because it isn't relevant, but because it's deeply personal. And so we're going to start here. So Jesus says, "You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you, for it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to be cast into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you, for it is more profitable for you that one of your members perish than for your whole body to cast into hell." So Jesus starts with lust. He starts with adultery. He says, you have heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. But if you ever look at a woman lustfully, has already committed adultery within their heart. And women, this can go for you as well. Just change out him for her. Okay, so you are not separated from what this says. So Jesus is not changing God's law. Jesus is going deeper and revealing more about what God's intention with the law was. The religious leaders had reduced righteous behavior to just, I didn't do it, so I'm good. I never physically did it, so I'm good. But Jesus says, okay, but let's talk about where it starts. Let's talk about what happens before you do it. Because every outward sin begins inward. Every action you take starts somewhere. It's a learned behavior. It begins with a thought, and that is everything that Jesus is saying. Jesus is saying that this all starts somewhere, and it doesn't start with the action. So before we dive in, let's define lust. Let's talk about what Jesus is saying. Lust is not simply noticing that someone is attractive. Okay? God created beauty. God created attraction. Go back and read the very beginning in Genesis. God created marriage. He created sexuality. He did it all. It was God's idea before sin ever entered the world. But lust is when admiration becomes consumption. It is choosing to entertain desires that God never intended us to cultivate, and it turns a person made in the image of God to an object for personal gratification. Love asks us, how can I serve you? Lust says, what can I take? Love gives, lust consumes. One reflects the heart of Christ, the other reflects the selfishness of our fallen nature. The book of James says it this way: each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desires, then desires, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. So understand the progression. It goes desire, sin, death. So it starts inward, and then it comes outward, and then we have a consequence for it. Nobody arrives at destruction in just one giant leap. Try as you might. Sin grows, it develops. It takes time, it gains strength, it gains influence. If you look at the world and you start acting the way the world does, guess what? The world will influence you. The world is full of sin, and the sin has grown to an influential behavior. I don't think I've ever asked my kids this, but I remember when I was a kid and my grandparents would say this to me, and what it was, oh, if your friends went and jumped off a building, would you? And
depends which friend.
And
never in a million
years. And now, as I sit here as a parent and I watch as my children behave the way some of their friends behave, and as I'm constantly reminding them, like, listen, I'm not raising you to follow, I'm raising you to lead. I'm raising you to stand out. And yet, because sin has grown to where it's at, they are easily influenced into jumping off the building that other people are jumping off of. Think about it. Think about sin this way. I love a good campfire. I think everybody pretty much loves a good campfire. You're able to sit there, enjoy, relax. Somehow, it doesn't matter where you sit, the smoke ends up in your face. But it's relaxing, and you just kind of fall into the mesmerization of the flames as they flicker up and down. And you start roasting marshmallows, you're making s'mores. My family loves s'mores. But what happens when that fire is no longer contained? If it's contained, it's beautiful, but once it breaks open, it starts unleashing everywhere. Everything changed. The same fire begins to consume everything. So, what exactly is it that you are allowing to consume you? Sexual desires work the same way as a fire. God created it. God created sexual desires. Plain and simple. God, when creating it, called it good. But it was inside his design. It builds intimacy, it builds trust, it builds a covenant, and yet we've perverted it. We've taken it outside of his design. You take it outside of his design, it brings pain, brokenness, shame, guilt. So God created it and called it good. So the problem is once we allow that fire and we allow those desires to break out away from the containment. Listen, there are attractive people in the world. There are attractive people who make money because they're attractive. But the problem is where you're at. You allow them to start consuming your thoughts. I've told my children this as it pertains to them even starting to date. My job as the parent is to help them set boundaries. Because I'm not just protecting them, I'm not just protecting them from the boy or the girl, and I'm not just being mean, but I'm protecting them from themselves, and I'm protecting the other person. Because my children don't fully understand who they are, and just as much as somebody else can hurt them, they can hurt somebody else. And so God creates this to be beautiful and to be housed in the marriage bed, and yet we've taken it far from it. God's boundaries are never meant to rob us of joy. They're meant to protect the joy he created. Whenever God says no, it's because he's protecting for a better yes. So what are you feeding? Because whatever you consistently feed will continue to grow. If I'm feeding my flesh every day, my fleshly desires will take root. My flesh gets stronger and it becomes harder and harder to tell it no. But if I feed my spirit and I follow what God is calling me to do, my spirit grows stronger and it's easier for me to push against my fleshly desires and push forth into what God is calling me to do. Paul says this way in Galatians that the one who sows to the flesh will reap consumption, but the one who sows to the Spirit will reap eternal life. Harvests don't appear overnight. They come from repeatedly planting. And so every clip, every conversation, every show, every playlist, every website, every thought that we choose to entertain, we're planting something. And eventually, we'll harvest whatever we've been planting. I wish coming to church on a Sunday morning was a miracle pill. That it would completely wipe out the other 6 days of the week. That you could show up here on a Sunday morning and be so filled by the time you left that you were still pouring out come the next Sunday. But I can be honest, you will make it about 5 minutes down the road and you'll hit the train that's parked on the tracks, and everything that talked about and every progress that you made here is already waning. You can't rely on what we do here on a Sunday to be the only source of consumption with God. If that is what you are attempting to do, you will fail miserably. You become bitter at God, saying, God, will I go to church? Great. I'm glad you go to church. But what are you doing with me the rest of the week? Think about it this way. As somebody who is married, if I only spent 1 day a week with my spouse, one evening, one set of 2 hours, I would know absolutely nothing about her. She would have zero knowledge of me. How can our relationship stand? And so we have to understand that it's not just a Sunday morning thing. It is an every single day process. If I want to have a relationship with God and I want my spirit to grow and my fleshly desires to not take place, then I've got to be in tune with God. Not 2 hours on a Sunday. It's funny. So here we go. Our smartphones are able to build algorithms off of what you look at. You search up a pair of boots, one pair. You do it on Google, and all of a sudden you sign into Facebook, and the next thing you see are tons of different ads and stuff for boots. Every single department store, every Amazon place that has a set of boots, all of a sudden it starts appearing. In fact, I kid you not, you don't even have to look it up. You start talking about it on the phone or near your phone, it knows it. At work, I'm about to sound like a big old nerd. At work, we talk a lot about Star Wars. We get into Star Wars debates. Guess what now populates non-stop on my phone?
Dungeon Color caught up.
I get on the Facebook and I got Star Wars reels, and I get onto YouTube, and the first 5 boxes are all something about Star Wars and how something is about somebody. And I'm like, we just talk about it. David understood something long before smartphones. And this is what David knew. He writes this in the book of Psalms, and it says, I will set no worthless thing before my eyes. David understood that victory usually begins before temptation. It is much easier to guard the front door than it is to chase an intruder through the whole house they're invited in. If I can keep them at the door, I have way more leverage than if they have free reign through my house and I'm having to chase them down. I think about cattle farmers. If they didn't put them in the chutes to be able to tag them or give them vaccination, could you imagine them having to chase a cow across the entire field just to do it once? Like, I would sit on the fence and watch it and laugh, but that is neither here nor there. But we we spend all of our energy asking God to deliver us from temptations we've been entertaining, and God's saying, why don't you close the door? Start by closing the door. And so Jesus goes from this part of lust to saying, if your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. If your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off, throw it away. Jesus is not promoting self-harm here. But he's using some vivid and some graphic language to show us how serious sin really is. The point is simple. Don't negotiate with things that are pulling you away from God. He's telling you to be ruthless with them. If something is continuously pulling your heart away from Christ, don't manage it. Get rid of it. Delete the app in the conversation. Get away from it. Turn the TV off. Block the number. Listen, I've taken my children's phone and I have blocked phone numbers for them. Because I could see what was doing. When my boys were little, we told them, hey, you're not allowed to watch that show anymore. But I like that show. I don't care. I don't. Because your behavior is acting the same as they act on that show. You have to change your routine. You have to walk away from the environment. Your soul is way more precious and more valuable than a modern convenience. Far too many people are trying to be spiritually victorious while refusing to remove what keeps making them spiritually vulnerable. Now, Jesus is trying and he's calling his people just to lead it, get away from it. He's exposing it because he loves you too much to leave you in it. Listen, a good doctor cannot heal a patient who refuses to uncover what's going on. Jesus will not physically remove it from you if you refuse to give it to him. That is not his nature. He comes with open hands saying, please hand it to me. Give it to me. Because Jesus understands that if he just removed it, you become bitter and angry. Well, you're not letting me make my own decisions. You're not allowing me to be an adult. You're not allowing me to handle what I want to handle. And Jesus is saying, you can't handle it. Give it to me. I'm not going to force you to do it. So if we want the great physician to truly heal us, we have to start by being honest. Freedom starts happening when you stop pretending. Confession is not the moment you lose. It is the moment where God begins to restore. Every hidden desire never stays hidden forever. Let's go to this next one, Matt. Let's go. You already got it. So now Jesus pushes past lust and he goes into another pretty big topic for them. And so, starting in verse 31, furthermore, it has been said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever divorces his wife for any reason except sexual immorality causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a woman who is divorced commits adultery. Again, you have heard it said that what was said to those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform your oaths to the Lord. But I say to you, do not swear at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is for his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Nor shall you swear by your head, because you cannot make one hair black or white. But let your yes be yes, and your no, no, for whatever it is more than these is from the evil one. All right, Max, jump back to 31. So now Jesus goes from lust and he starts peeling back even more. And he starts dealing with faithfulness. Jesus is showing that hidden desires matter. Desires never stay isolated. They begin to build relationships with one another. So you move from one desire and it grows to another desire that's even bigger than the other one. What we continually entertain in private eventually begins to affect the promises we make in public. So Jesus goes from lust to marriage to our words. It can feel like a change of subject, but they all start building on top of each other. Faithfulness isn't something that begins at an altar. Just because you come here and you give your life to Christ, that is not where faithfulness starts. Faithfulness does not start with your word, it starts with your heart. And just because I come up and I utter the words does not mean I am changing my behavior. Jesus says, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce, but I tell you that just because you do it, just because you divorced your wife because, she didn't make you happy anymore, because, you fell out of love, now you're causing an issue for both of you. Because a few verses later, Jesus says it and follows all that up with, again, you have heard that it is said, do not break your oath, but let your yes be yes and your no, no. If I have committed, be committed. Listen, I am fully aware there are certain things that happen within marriages that ultimately divorce is necessary and separation has to happen. But what Jesus is dealing with at this time is a culture who is finding every little thing wrong with their spouse, and so they're just divorcing them. If they burnt dinner, there was a divorce paper given. Like, your spouse burns Thanksgiving dinner, and all of a sudden now a divorce paper is being handed to them that next day. But that was what was going on there. It was going on so much that Jesus finally says, listen, if you do this, this is what's happening. There are reasons and there are certain things, and the Bible even talks about there are reasons to get a divorce. But it's not just because, he didn't clean up his mess, or she burned dinner. Those weren't grounds for divorce. But they were allowing them to do it. It became rampant in their culture. Jesus wasn't making a joke. What Jesus was trying to do was restore something that is sacred. Marriage had slowly been reduced from a covenant to a contract. There's a difference between a contract and a covenant. A contract says that as long as you hold up your end, I'll hold up mine. A covenant says that no matter what happens, I'm committed. Even if it costs me something, I'm staying. Jesus is dealing with faithfulness within people. So my one frustration when it pertains to sports. Nobody stays faithful even under contract. They start holding out and they start doing things that they're not supposed to, and it goes against their contract. We treat marriage the same way. Oh, it's just a contract between us. We're not in it till the end. A covenant means I'm in it till the end. And it's the kind of faithfulness that reflects the very character of God. Imagine what it would look like if God loved you on a contract basis. Man, it would be bad. If God loved us on a contract basis, well, guess what? You didn't wake up and just pray first thing in the morning, so we're done. We're done here. Oh, you snapped at your kids. Oh, your kids yelled at you. Yeah, we're done. Contract's over. You didn't hold up your end. It's not who God is. If God treated us in the same manner that we treat His people, and this is honesty right here. We forget that other people. We'll quote it, I am made in the image of God. But guess what? So is the person you're mad at. So is your spouse. So is the mailman who brings you a bill that you absolutely hate. But we want to get it mixed up, and we're like, oh, well, I'm made in the image of God, and I'm going to treat somebody else nasty, not remembering that they are also made in the same image. But Jesus didn't stop at marriage. He talks about honesty. Faithfulness is not about just staying married. It's about becoming the right kind of person whose word carries weight. The kind of person that doesn't make you say, I promise, I got you. The kind of person where somebody calls, if you say, hey, I can get it taken care of. They don't need you to come give a pinky promise. They don't need you to come sign on a dotted line that you'll get it taken care of. It's my frustration with some of my children. They want to come to me and I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to mom about it. And next thing I know, they're over there talking to mom about it. Let me take care of it. Let your yes be a yes and your no be a no. Be people of your word. Think about it. If somebody could just call you and trust you enough that if you said, yes, I can do it, then you'll do it. They don't have to be like, are you sure? Do you promise? You got it? You with me till the end? We need to be people of our word. And that is what Jesus is saying. Let your yes be a yes. If yes, you're going to do it, then do it. If no, then don't do it. You want to know how to know if somebody's probably not going to do it? And so they're like, yeah, I promise, I got it. Yeah, I'll get you. They've already forgot about it. People with consistent character usually don't have to convince everyone. They're honest. Their life will do it. Trust isn't built by louder promises, it's built by consistent faithfulness. If you build a house, what is the one thing, unless you're dealing with like a contractor or engineer, what is the one thing somebody does not compliment on your house? Your foundation. They'll come in and be like, oh, your kitchen looks great. The bathroom is amazing. This is like a walk-in shower for 50 people. You can take a nap in there. They comment on the decorations, but they don't talk about what it's built on. They don't start talking about the foundation until weather starts moving in and something happens, and all of a sudden you got walls that are starting to crack. And then they come over like, oh, you should have somebody come fix your foundation. It's invisible until it's not. Nobody applauds the foundation. You don't tap the floor and be like, hey, you're holding up good today. But we sit there, and the moment the moment cracks begin to happen, it's the only thing that people want to comment on. Guess what? Your shower that you can take a nap in is no longer awesome. But hey, did you know that half your house is about to fall over? It's the same thing spiritually. The book of Proverbs says, whoever walks in integrity walks securely. It doesn't say integrity guarantees a peaceful life. It's not easy. A lot of times people with integrity get burned alive. But here's the deal. A person with integrity doesn't have to remember which story they told to which person. As much, listen, when I was a kid, I liked to tell fisherman stories. It didn't matter what size fish I caught. It was almost as big as me. Every fish. Didn't matter. The minnow that I put on the hook was as big as me. I don't tell those kind of stories anymore. Now it's like right in here. Yeah. It was the minnow's big brother. But integrity gives you the freedom to be honest. You don't have to build another lie on top of the first lie, which then goes to the third lie, and you're trying to keep up with it, and all the while, you're sitting there, and that person who's looking at you like, there's just no way that's even possible. Jesus is inviting us to become whole people. The same person from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The same person in private that you are in public. The same person online that you are in the sanctuary. The same person when in business is the same person you are during your worship. Character is consistency. It's who you are. Character is who you are when the applause disappears. It's who you are when no one's checking. The rule in my house is as long as you are in my house, you don't have privacy. Sorry. I pay for your phones. I will check your phones whenever I want. Don't do so. I tell the boys, hey, don't do something that's gonna cause your mom to be embarrassed. If you don't want your mom looking at it, don't send it. Don't look it up. My daughter's gotten to the age where it's, listen, if you don't want the world to know about it, don't put it out there. But it's all about consistency. My children aren't perfect. They still, I go through and when I check the phone, I'm still like, just banging my head on, like, we've already had this conversation, stop doing it. But that rule goes for me as well. My wife can pick up my phone at any point in time. She has the passcode. She can unlock it and she can look at it. Because guess what? I'm going to be the same husband in private that I am in public. In the book of Luke, Jesus says, whoever is faithful in little is faithful also in much. God doesn't trust us with much. He trusts us with little at first. And it lets it grow. It's like an interest rate. Every little conversation, every little decision, every little temptation. As we push forward, I'm trusting you more and I'm trusting you more. God is trying to call us to a greater faithfulness. Maybe it's our marriage, maybe it's as parents. Maybe it's at work. So one thing I've always attempted to do, I am the same person, I am the same worker when my boss is watching and when they're not. If my boss has to sit there and watch me, I am doing my job wrong. So Jesus is dealing with lust, and he's dealing with the faithfulness of people. And so today, maybe we need to work on just being people of our word. Maybe it's just being someone that if I say something, I can be trusted with it. Maybe it's continuing to obey even though it feels ordinary and it just is mundane, and I don't want to continue to do the same thing, but God, until you tell me otherwise, I'm going to continue to do it. I'm not going to, this is a conversation we were having on the way here. And until God calls you somewhere else, you stay where you are. You look at the Old Testament, all the times that the Jewish people were exiled out of their country, God said, listen, continue to stay faithful. Jeremiah 29:11, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord plans to prosper you, to not harm you. Beautiful thing, but guess what? They were in exile. 70 years. An entire generation is going to die off. And then you get to go back. But be faithful and let your yes be a yes and your no be no. Work the land. The Bible says, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. We'll pick up on the next two next week. I keep going. But I understand it's just a clock. But I really feel that these are the two that are really needed today. And I feel the Lord saying this because guess what? You may have been faithful. You've been faithful. Listen, every single person in this room has been faithful. You show up week after week. You give. You do things that may never get a round of applause. Listen, I can't tell you a time that my children, as they have gotten older, have ever come back to us and been like, Dad, thank you for being faithful and changing my diaper. Thank you for making sure that my bottles were nice and warm when I was a baby, so that way I've grown up. But we stay faithful not for the applause. So today maybe you're dealing with some lust issues. Because here's the reality, lust is not just over another individual, it can be over anything. When things begin to consume who we are and it separates us from who God is, we begin to just chase those things that become our overall just everyday consumption. There are people who lust after casinos. They lust after nicotine and alcohol and all of that. And so don't just think that I'm talking about a sexual issue here. It is an ongoing problem. There are people who lust after technology. They're addicted to their technology. Our Wi-Fi goes out in the house, and I've got a kid who's like wind sprinting to the box, unplugging it and then plugging it back in. The Wi-Fi can't go down, Dad. Can't go down. It's in the middle of the game. Okay, don't care. But today, maybe there's lustful issues that you need to deal with. Maybe there's some faithfulness issues that you're lacking. Today, I want to pray with you. And I want to open up an area for you to surrender that to God. Jesus won't physically remove it from you. If he was to do that, that goes against his nature. That goes against the concept of free will. You didn't like when your parents took things from you. God will not physically remove it unless you give it over. And so today I just want to open that opportunity up. Because faithful people can still get hurt. People with integrity get hurt. If you're in a marriage, you don't stop to think that you're in a relationship of any kind, friendship, business, whatever it is. We don't stop and think that our lustful intentions aren't hurting the other individual. Well, it's just staying in my mind. Yeah, but the more it stays in your mind and the more it occupies your mind, then it becomes an action. Listen, there are people who keep their word and they still want to get even when somebody doesn't keep theirs. We still get mad at the people who we know don't keep their word. Like they said they would do it. Okay, but when have they ever done it? So today I want to give that opportunity. If everybody was standing.